Hello and welcome to Media Lit, where we treat each piece of media like great literature. I'm your host, Randy Elaine, and joining me as always is my good buddy, Kris Ingersoll, my good friend of a full year. Kris, how you doing these days?
So good, Randy. I mean, let's be honest. Things are a little bit weird in the world, but one day at a time, 1 hour at a time. And right now, in this moment, in this hour, I'm sitting down to pod with you. And our podlings at home know there's no place I'd rather be. So I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm feeling a slight sense of dread as we record this because I know this is probably going to drop like 4 to 6 weeks into the future. So who knows what you just evoked with that statement about how strange things have been. But you know what? We'll hope for the best. And whatever's going on in the world, we are here for a good time tonight. I am absolutely thrilled about our guests tonight. When I first started podcasting a little over a year ago, these are a couple of folks who were like right near the top of my could we get them on the show list. I believe I've told versions of this story on the podcast before, but my very first podcast ever was on Socially Distanced. I came on to talk about some of our favorite doctors from Doctor Who over the years. And one of the very kind voices and faces greeting me was one Tyler McCarthy. Now, I've had the opportunity to podcast with Tyler a couple of times since then, but this is my very first time podcasting with Allie Nelson. And these two folks are the co-hosts of Not Couple Goals, which is one of the most fun and smart podcasts on the Pop Break podcast feed, in my personal opinion. You can also find these two appearing across the Pop Break on a lot of other podcasts. One of my personal favorite moments for these two was about a year ago. I believe they went on Socially Distanced to talk about a little film called Madame Web and just really brought to life all of what that film had to offer. Tyler, Allie, how are you doing tonight?
Great. Thank you so much. What a lovely intro. Yes, I forgot the Doctor Who episode. You were so good on it. I forgot it was like your first time podcasting. That was such a great one. And yeah, I've got to work with you a handful of times and it's been great. And we're actually so excited. I love, listening to your back catalog of Media Lit. You would not know that you have only been doing this a year. You guys, run a tight ship around here and it's really entertaining to listen to. So we're super thrilled to be here. I can't believe we were a top choice guest.
I'm doing less great now that I'm thinking about Madam Web again, but I'll push that from my head. But I'm definitely, we're really excited to be here. We were, boning up on listening to your guys' past episodes and also, watching our media for tonight. So we were having a great old week of it.
Yeah, it was so exciting to dive. I won't spoil what we're talking about before it's time, but it was so fun to dive back into this world. And it was so great to have an excuse to do it.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. And I really appreciate the very fun homework that you brought for us tonight. It's maybe not the highest art we've ever talked about, but probably higher art than Madam Web, which is great.
Yeah, it's not the lowest, I would say, by any means.
No. But before we reveal exactly what we're talking about, I love how I always say that as if people haven't seen the episode title.
Right.
That says exactly what we're talking about. Nevertheless, before we dive into...
You made a lovely outline, and I will be damned if we're not going to stick to it.
Thank you. This is why you're top of the guest list. No, that being said, before we dive deeper into our topic for tonight, Allie and Tyler, I was hoping you might tell us a little bit more about Not Couple Goals, and if you have any other work that you want to talk about or share, we'd love to hear about it. We hope our podlings will find you.
Yeah, Not Couple Goals. We've been doing it, I think, for 2 years now.
Yeah.
We have a good amount of back catalogs. It sprang from the fact that I love romantic thrillers and Tyler does not. But I love to make him watch them with me anyway. So that's, kind of the basis of, you're going to hear our banter about it. But we like to say that our tagline is we talk about the best and, let's face it, worst of romantic thriller cinema.
Yeah, it's a lot of, like Allie said, Allie and I, if people haven't figured it out or don't know, we're a married couple. We've been together coming up on 10 years.
Congrats.
Thank you. 10 years in a couple days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been together for a long time. So we love watching these movies because 9 times out of 10, they are about, when we say not couple goals, they are about, our favorites are when a woman goes a little mad or justifiably mad and just goes on a killing spree or something like that. They're movies like Wild Things, A Perfect Murder. What was the Olivia Wilde movie that I hated?
I can't think of what I always say Fatal Attraction or The Boy Next Door are kind of like our quintessential ones.
Those are great ones. We do a lot.
It was the one with Florence Pugh.
Yes, and Harry Styles.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, don't worry, darling. I got it.
Yes. So we try to do a mix of new releases for the people who are still having their finger on the pulse of the romantic thriller genre. But it's also a genre that is just rife with classics that we really like to dive into. So we have a great time on that. And if you're interested in it, you can find new episodes on the Pop Break Today feed, where there's both Allie, myself, and then a lot of other cool podcasters. You'll probably find these two lovely gentlemen who you're here to listen to mostly on certain episodes of other shows. And also, too, if you want to just follow me, Tyler McCarthy, on Spotify, I put a lot of our back catalog, which exists on the old Pop Break Today feed before it merged. So if you follow me on Spotify, you can find every single episode. We're in the 50s. Sometimes it's just us. Sometimes we have wonderful guests on, a lot of Pop Break people on. We'd love to have either of you on if a particular romantic thriller jogs your mind. And yeah, it's a really great time. We do it for fun. We have a lot of fun doing it. And we want to thank the people at the Pop Break for letting us join their little Isle of Misfit Toys.
Yeah, aren't they great?
So terrific. Well said. Yeah, Island Misfit Toys. I love that.
Before we go any further, you mentioned some of your, favorite tropes in this genre of film. And I've enjoyed every episode of Not Couple Goals that I've heard, but I haven't heard every one. And I did not think to check. Have you done like the bunny boiling movie, Fatal Attraction?
We have.
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's going to be my next listen. I'm gonna go back and search for that one because it's what am I doing here if I haven't heard that episode yet?
And that's also quintessential too, because I think I watched that for the podcast. Like, had not seen it, was not familiar, and a bunny gets boiled. Like it's it's wild.
I think I admitted you watch it one time earlier on in the relationship. I made sure of that.
You're right. That's where my Michael Douglas impression came from. No, I will not do it here.
Oh, that's tough to advertise.
I apologize.
Out there and leave us hanging. My gosh,
because it's mean to him. I do it like he's a bridge troll.
All right, that's
who
fair.
Thinks everyone finds him very attractive.
Just making a note to only invite Tyler to talk about Michael Douglas properties until we hear the impression. Noted. Let's see, Tyler, you mentioned the back catalog. I just wanted to open the door. If either of you want to plug, if you want to be found anywhere on social media, if you have any stuff like that you want to share, feel free to throw that in. Or Allie, if you had any other work you wanted to share, please feel free to jump in with that.
I have a fairly robust social media presence, which nice. I need to stop with the doom scrolling. But if you want to take, part of the doom scrolling with me, or see where I'm posting things that are not doom based, you can follow me on Instagram and Threads. I'm at Anelretentive, ANELRETENTIVE. You can follow me on YouTube and TikTok ? I'm upset with them right now. I don't know if we're going to have a breakup, and maybe the country's going to have a breakup with them. But right now, you can still YouTube and TikTok. I'm at Like Willie Nelson, spelled like the singer's name, Like Willie Nelson.
Beautiful.
And then on Blue Sky is the only place where I got there first. Suck it, other Allie Nelsons. My name's actually Allie Nelson there.
Very nice. Very nice.
And guys, you can find me on Venmo. My name? No, I'm joking.
Well played, sir.
My wife has the more robust social media presence, but for now, I think it's, if you're listening, we're recording this on January 23rd. If that's not secret information, so we don't know what the social media landscape is going to look like, but it's a very charged environment right now. But at the moment, I'm trying to be most active on Blue Sky and Threads, where you can find me at Tyler McCarthy 328.
Stoked you all are here with us. As advertised, fun and smart. A lot of folks are smart. A lot of folks are fun. Not so many folks are both smart and fun. And you've both proven to be exactly that so far. The homework
Man,
tonight.
now we're getting that ego feed we were hoping for, Allie.
I was hoping.
I'm worried the bar is too high now.
Well, we'll let you be judged then by the homework you assigned to us. Because tonight, thanks to you both, we get to dip our toes into an absolute icon from my childhood. Randy, I assume yours as well. Tonight, we get to talk about Are You Afraid of the Dark? And we're not doing the whole series. Tyler and Allie were kind enough to highlight one specific episode for Randy and I to go and watch and do a deep dive on. So we're looking at episode from season 1, episode number 2, The Tale of Laughing in the Dark. I almost can't say it without feeling a little spooked. Clowns aren't my favorite. Just warning, trigger warning to the people out there. There will be audio descriptions tonight of spooky things that happen with clowns. Clowns, people. Clowns.
Kris, I didn't know you were such a Kristen about clowns.
You know what? I didn't know either, but now I have a special spirit animal in my dear friend Kristen, and I won't be mocked for it.
Beautiful, beautiful.
So, I mean, I mentioned it was an icon from my childhood, but you all assigned the homework. So I'm really curious to hear your Are You Afraid of the Dark origin story. Allie, let's start with you.
Well, I remember just being a wee small child and seeing a commercial for it. And my mom saying, no, that's too scary for you. I had to have been like, I don't know, 4 or 5.
Yep.
And immediately I was like, nah, nothing's too scary for me, which is just bullshit because I used to sleep on my parents' floor. I was scared. My parents would like show me R-rated movies at that age. And like I watched Aliens when I was 5 and stuff. So I grew up watching terrifying things and like loved them up until I always say even as an adult, I don't believe in ghosts or anything like that up until I'm in the dark. And then I believe in everything. Demons, like maybe a leprechaun. I don't know.
Yep.
So I snuck to watch it. I think there was a babysitter sort of moment where the first time that I watched it, because I knew I wasn't allowed to, and immediately was scared. And I watched what at the time, like the episode that I found is probably still my favorite episode because it haunts me the most.
This episode was terrifying. I'm not surprised. These things have stayed with you throughout adulthood.
Yeah.
I also watched these things too young.
To a degree, when you watch this whole show, we were all too young. Like, if you are of our generation, like, we were very young watching these stories. Like, you could, like, I don't like to get all, like, old man about it, but, like, you really, it was such a moment in time to be comfortable and okay with just straight up frightening children. Like, the creators of this show, the actors, the writers, everyone was just like, we want to live forever with them through their trauma. Like, and let's pop this on Nickelodeon. Like it is so scary that we watched a few episodes just in preparation for this. Children die in this show. Name another show on right now where children are straight up murdered on camera. It's wild what we went through. And for better or worse, I do think indeed it shaped us in many ways. My family, and I love my parents for this, because a lot of what shaped our viewing in our household, we didn't have a giant household. Like, if the family was gathered in the living room, it was kind of unavoidable. And my parents, I think, just wanted to watch Are You Afraid of the Dark? I have an older brother. He's about 4 years older than me, a little more age appropriate for sort of watching this kind of stuff. But like so many things, and we'll talk about sort of later on my adult affection for the horror genre, but like so many things, it was just by the fact that my dad wanted to watch it, my mom wanted to watch it, and my older brother wanted to watch it. So Tyler, come on in the living room, try not to get too scared. And thank God I wasn't too scared of this show. I ate up every single one of it, particularly The Tale of Laughing in the Dark, where it was like, I would, like, our family would cancel plans if we saw on the TV guide that Laughing in the Dark was going to have a rerun. Like, we loved this episode. Zebo the clown, the whole gestalt. We are so into it to this day.
Ben, I just love that you said TV guide in the midst of that. Honestly, really helps put this in a time and place. Yeah, there is something about sort of, I also had that small-ish household, right? So there's the one TV, it is the one room people are gathering, and younger sibling does not often get first choice of what gets watched.
Yes.
Randy, what about you, dude? Did your parents give you access to this?
So they did. However, my earliest memory, I think, of watching this show, is actually at my grandparents' house, at my Mime and Pepe's house in Acushnet, Massachusetts. I could be creating this memory a little bit, but I think at least one viewing happened at a Halloween party at their house. And I have this image of me and my many cousins like crowded into their bedroom. And like some of us are on the floor and someone was on like an exercise bike in the corner. And some of us were like on the bed watching Are You Afraid of the Dark? I can't remember which episode it was that night, but it was an event. It was destination television. And it was almost a rite of passage to like make it through the episode and survive. The episode that haunts my dreams the most is the tale of the dark music. And in this episode, there's like a creepy evil door in the basement of a house. And when you play music, it activates the door. And many weird, creepy things come out of this door, including this very disturbing life-size doll, which I just dropped an image of in the chat if anyone wants to be terrified.
Oh, hell yeah. I remember this. Sorry, just going back and rewatching some of these episodes, because the show is kind of difficult to find, and I've just been having so many like hearing lines and seeing imagery that is just making me come crashing back to childhood, and this is one. Like, viscerally, I remember this image, and holy hell.
Well, it's funny because Tyler and I debated which episode to choose, and Laughing in the Dark was really a big one for Tyler, and wasn't that big a one for me. Because I feel like there's more creative episodes than Laughing in the Dark. But Tyler didn't. He was like, I remember 2 episodes, this one and a different one that he might want to talk about later. And I was like, okay, so we're choosing one of 2. And then as we started rewatching, he was like, oh, I remember this one, and I remember this one. I was like, I knew it. You remembered a lot more. They stuck in your brain and gave you trauma.
Yes. And I agree, this isn't the best. It's not the most creative one they did, but man, is this one special.
I'm glad we're talking about that and not the tale of the dark music. As much as I love it when the main kid, who could pass for a young John Mulaney, but is not a young John Mulaney, instead of being eaten by the door, he enters into a like relationship with the door. It's like a very Little Shop of Horrors thing. And at the end of the episode, he feeds his bully to the door, and the door gives him a new bike in return. And it just kind of ends on this evil grin on his face. So yeah, they go to these dark places, and I will never forget.
That's awesome.
Wow. Wowza.
This show rules.
This show does rule. And I was going to say, honestly, I think this was a great pick because it feels like, I mean, it's early in the run, right? Episode 2, season 1 sets the tone for what the show can feel like. And just in terms of my own origin story of the show, there was a quote I pulled from the very beginning of the episode that I thought perfectly encapsulated the experience of watching this as a kid, because I wasn't really allowed, right? Similar to you, Allie, I was exposed to a ton of stuff I shouldn't have been exposed to, or like you, Tyler, as well. Like, you're in the room, it gets put on, you're probably too young. And yet there was stuff that I wanted to watch, which was deemed too old or too mature. It would be stuff like targeted at kids, but older kids. So if it's like targeted at adults, it's fine if it's inappropriate, but if it's targeted at older. So Snick wasn't really something my mom was prepared to let us dive into. Roundhouse. Do you guys remember Roundhouse?
Oh yeah.
No.
Thank you, Randy. Snick had this like hip kids, like variety show type moment thing that my mom felt certainly these teenagers were too old and too cool for like 6-year-old me to be watching. So Are You Afraid of the Dark was a part of that, very much so because of its positioning in Snick, and then also because it was supposed to be this very scary show that could give you nightmares. This episode opens with a quote about the playground, about the carnival.
Mm-hmm.
And she says you can laugh and scream and get scared to death on rides and stuff up on junk food and ditch your parents. And that is like the perfect encapsulation of watching this show, especially because often it was associated with sleepovers. You're at a friend's house, you're at a grandparent's house, you're in some form of isolation, someplace separate from home. It's a special kind of night, and you're going to stuff up on junk food. You're going to do things your parents probably wish you wouldn't do. You're going to get scared. You're going to laugh. You're going to have a great time. So I thought this was the perfect pick in order to bring this show into the larger pantheon of media lit discussions.
Absolutely. Great quote. Great poll.
I used to love to watch all of the like scary targeted at children shows. Like in addition to like adult content, it was I loved Erie, Indiana. That was on Saturday mornings.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a great one. And then Goosebumps was I feel like it came about after Are You Afraid of the Dark started, so it was kind of copying, but everybody was reading the books, and so I remember watching all of them and all of them being way too scary for me at the time. And then you watch as an adult and you're like, man, I was kind of a pussy.
Disagree.
Yeah, I would say maybe some of them, yes, valid. Like this one, not super scary. Like Josh keeps repeating, we'll talk about this, kid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the episode that sticks with me when I went back through all of the episodes to try to find the one that, like, what? There's an image in my head, but I know it's from the show. What episode was that? Do you guys remember? It was in season 4, it was episode 9, The Tale of the Ghastly Grinner.
We watched that not but 20 minutes ago before starting this recording.
I also watched a little bit of it 20 minutes ago.
It's terrifying. It's akin to the episode that I'm going to talk about as well. But it is because they had to design a monster and they were like, let's make this monster scare. Let's make it scary enough to scare like a Vietnam vet, let alone children.
Dude, so true. I'm glad you're with me on this. The blue goo coming from people's eyes and mouths.
Mm-hmm.
The first person I think he sees transformed is his mom. There's nothing worse than seeing your mom zombified and giggling. This like episode played on sort of the Joker, I guess, or a little ripoff of the Joker with like laughing gas. But yeah, just terrifying. It has sort of themes that mean a lot to me. In rewatching it, I was like, oh, hey, look at all the comic book stuff. They're in a comic book shop. You see Spider-Man. You see like very of the time comic book stuff happening. But that's not why the show stuck with me. The show stuck with me because of that friggin' face, those eyes, and that blue goo. Terrifying.
And the body snatching aspect is something that scares me to this day in movies. Like your mom's not your mom. People around you are being transformed. And like they're in a bus at one point, and the bus driver, I mean, they're alone on this bus for some reason, but the bus driver turns around, does a full like Exorcist 360, and he's got the goo and just starts driving crazy with them in the bus.
There and like you said too, like the first person he sees is transform is his mom. And his mom has now become, like, they sort of hint that his parents weren't amazing anyway. Like, not deadbeat parents, far from it. But, like, he was in a tough place with his parents. But it's just, like, the first person he sees is his mom. The second person he sees is his dad. And from the jump from there on out, this kid is on his own. And that's scary when you're little and you see that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
While we're on the ghastly grinner and these monsters that are just scary, the episode that I want to talk about was the only one. Look, I was like I said, we would cancel plans to watch Laughing in the Dark, Zebo the Clown. But the only one episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark that when I was a kid, I was ever like, Mom, I can't watch that one. Like, I please don't turn that one on. Was I think it's like the last episode too. It's
well, it's the last episode of episode 5, but I think there are other.
Seasons. Oh, you're because they revive it such and such, but it's the Tale of the Night Shift, where a vampire is wreaking havoc on a hospital, and he's doing similar things, body snatching. He's draining people enough to sort of transform them into like his own little flying monkeys. And at one point, he has like a nurse cornered on a roof, and he's dangling her over the side. He looks terrifying, green skin, bright red eyes. Again, they are pulling no punches in the monster design. And he's holding this poor girl who you've gotten to know throughout the episode over the edge. And he says, I should drop you and lick up what's left. I am single digit aged. It was so terrifying. And I actually remember one of the few times my brother and I ever had a babysitter, and we were little terrors. It was like this poor teenager was probably exhausted. And she's like, oh, thank God. Are You Afraid of the Dark is on. I can put it on. I can get a little bit of a reprieve. And it was this episode. And I had to be like, hey, I'm so sorry. I recognize you need a break. It's not going to happen, lady. I'm not watching this episode.
The episode that sticks with me to this day is the first episode I ever saw, which was the Tale of the Closet Keepers, which I feel like the name of it doesn't launch anything in anyone's head, but It's the one with the deaf girl, and she and this basically bully both get kidnapped by what seems to be aliens to be put in a human zoo, and they're using sound to keep them trapped. They don't realize that she's deaf, so she ends up kind of being like the superhero who can beat them. I've always had, ever since I was a really little kid, I had such a fear of being kidnapped. And then the idea of being kidnapped and put in a human zoo and, like just being gawked at by they don't do a great job with the costumes for what I'm assuming are aliens. They just kind of have gas masks on. But at age 5, that was terrifying to me.
I'll say this, the aliens look exactly like if a putty from the Power Rangers and the Cybermen ran at each other very fast. Picture that. Don't change draft day. That is what these things look like.
Hate that.
Awesome. Did anyone else have any other episodes they wanted to sneak in?
I was going to say Ghastly Grinner. There's so many.
The Dollmaker. We watched the Dollmaker one where the missing girl, she starts turning into a doll. Her friend finds her because she just disappeared in the attic. And as the longer that you're in that attic and that doll that brings you to a dollhouse, you end up turning into a doll, and her hands are useless at this point, and eventually she can't even speak. That really, that kind of stuff really gets me. So it still bothers me.
Yeah, it has a happy ending, but children get hurt in this show
constantly. Anybody remember Tia and Tamara Mowry on
Yes.
Are You Afraid of the Dark? Again, a body snatch type thing. That was so scary to me as kids. Even though I already knew them from something else, I did not like the idea of somebody taking my life, coming in and impersonating me and stealing my life and stealing hugs from my mom. I hated that.
Yeah.
The one that gave me the existential dread was I think it's like the tale of the captured souls. It's this family that goes to like a bed and breakfast, and there are mirrors everywhere, and they discover that the mirrors are like stealing their life energy, like they're aging up.
Yes,
and,
I do remember that.
Over the course of a few days, like her parents become like elderly, and she has to like uncover some creepy machine from that dangerous 1920s that also comes up in our episode for tonight.
There is one episode that is sort of notorious in my household, only because, again, kids, old man speaking. This was back in the time where if you wanted, there was no such thing as streaming. There was no such thing as on demand. If you wanted to watch an episode on demand, you had to record it on a VHS tape and then watch it at your leisure. So we were beholden to whenever they would just play reruns. And for some reason, either in my area or whatever, I'm not really sure how it works, but the tale of Quicksilver would constantly be on. And it is, I'm not going to sit here and talk about Quicksilver because frankly, kind of a mid episode, but it was just on so much to the point where I remember my mother actually getting furious and being like, Quicksilver again? We're not watching Quicksilver again. Let me look at the TV, like just thumbing through the TV guide being like, we can't watch. Why do they keep playing Quicksilver? My mom, who was very much leading the charge for the whole family to gather around and watch Are You Afraid of the Dark? When I think of my mother, she's Allie, I'll tell you, she's a, tiny, lovely, like she's not from Long Island, but she's from Connecticut. But I always joke that the accent sort of drifted across the Long Island Sound and landed smack dab on her. She's the sweetest woman in the world. And I forget that she's also like a horror aficionado. I remember one time I called her and I was like, hey, how you doing? And she's like, oh, I couldn't sleep last night. So I got up at like 4 a.m. and I actually watched this scary movie. And I was like, oh, right. Okay. What was it? What was it, like a Lifetime movie? Like, what are you talking about, Mom? And she's like, it's called Hereditary. And I was like,
oh, no.
Watch Hereditary and ate eggs? Are you out of your mind? She likes her horror and she got sick of Quicksilver.
You watched Hereditary and ate eggs.
Yes. First, bright and early, watching the sunrise.
As one does.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there for sure. But Kris, do you think it's time we unpack tonight's episode?
Yeah, you got to do it.
All right, so here we go. In this episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark, Betty Ann hits us with a creepy clown story. Along the way, the rest of the Midnight Society teases and harasses Kristen over her fear of clowns. Kiki takes the greatest pleasure in tormenting Kristen, but Eric lands the final blow when he scares her away with a clown mask. But listen, we are really here to discuss the tale that the Midnight Society is sharing, the tale of laughing in the dark. So let's get down to business. Josh Ouija, which is an incredible fucking name, by the way.
I didn't know that was his last name.
Is it? I don't know if he's just listed as Ouija. In my mind, that is his first name.
I think actually at one point we hear him called Luigi. I think Ouija is a nickname for Luigi.
Oh, I was gonna joke that his dad's name was probably Lou. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's kind of a spooky nickname.
Yeah,
exactly right. Yeah, Ouija.
Okay, you know what? I made fun, but this works on so many levels. These writers are genius.
Yeah. Well, I only love the name Ouija more. And although his sister Kathy has a less complicated name, she is spunky as hell, so she's a lot of fun. In any case, they go out for a day of fun at the Playland amusement park, and their friend Josh cannot function unless he is just emanating a constant barrage of light bullying. After a lot of big talk, they get creeped out by a very extra carnival barker, and they decide not to enter the spook house, which is called Laughing in the Dark. Because this isn't just any spook house. It is allegedly haunted by the ghost of Zeebo the Clown, a 1920s criminal who was burnt to a crisp in the original attraction after fleeing the authorities with $4,000 in park payroll. We know all of this because off-screen, Ouija photocopied newspaper clippings at his local library and then presented the findings to Josh and Kathy from the comfort of his, let me check my notes here, hockey rink bedroom. It is a really cool bedroom, but it is also inexplicable. After a bit more showboating from Josh, he finally braves the spook house. Ouija and Kathy are too scared to enter, so they challenge Josh to steal Zeebo the Clown's nose as proof of his daring feat. If he succeeds, Ouija has to wear the nose to school for a whole week. Josh is clearly scared, but manages to follow through on the challenge. Then, he lives his best life terrorizing Ouija. Unfortunately, mysterious plumes of cigar smoke start following him wherever he goes. Then, the very second Josh's parents leave him home alone, with what can only be described as a vat of chocolate pudding, he starts to hear strange noises. Soon he receives a threatening call, demanding that he return the nose. Zeebo finally repeats his demand using a balloon that he inflates from just outside Josh's bedroom door. Finally, Josh admits to being a big old wimp and breaks into Playland to return the nose. Somewhere along the way, he uses his mysterious contact to acquire a full box of cigars to leave as a peace offering alongside the nose. We end on the laughter of the creepy carnival barker, and we're left to wonder whether or not he played a part in these strange happenings. The Midnight Society even wonders aloud if the carnival barker was a ghost the entire time. Ooh. So there you have it, folks.
Hell yeah. Great recap, Randy.
Thank you so much. Anything you want to add or expand upon?
No, I'm really glad that you mentioned the inexplicable gift from this 11-year-old boy that's just cigars. Doesn't explain how he got a full box, who was selling him a full box of cigars, anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a full box of cigars. Like if he has one cigar, I'm like, okay, he shoplifted. A full box. But and also too, like this is another like 90s kid thing of just these kids are traversing all over town like nobody's business. There is no such thing as ride share. It is just like he left his home in the dead of night, broke into the carnival in the dead of night, and yes, you're right, somewhere along the way stopped at what I assume is a gas station filled with so many scarier characters than Zeebo the Clown.
No. I think he had to spend money on the good stuff because he needed to apologize to Zeebo. So I don't think he's getting gas station cigars.
That's true. So you think he broke into like a cigar shop, like a dedicated smoke shop?
Wait, I think I just cracked it.
I can't wait to hear.
Hit us.
Okay, I think that Ouija and Kathy's family are like loaded with that like hockey rink bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And he had finally confessed how scared he was of Zebo. So maybe they like stole them from like Ouija and Kathy's dad or something like that off screen. That's my head canon.
I like it, except what's with the brown paper bag? It's in a very suspicious large brown paper bag. And I know that because initially I see him show up with it. I'm like, well, what, did he go right from his house? Did he go back in and get the nose? Why did he put the nose in a bag? And then he pulls out the box of cigars. I was like, oh, that's why the bag. I love when you include stuff like this in the recap, in the synopsis, because like we shouldn't waste too much time during the deep dive talking about these silly little things. But
no,
they do make the episode so fun. So if you had failed to mention the vat of chocolate pudding, I would have mentioned it. Like it's a tiny little serving of like some pasta dish she's going to heat up. So like,
well,
it's small.
It's spaghetti. His mother leaves him a note that says like, "Hey, I bet you thought you forgot me and Dad have theater tickets. There's spaghetti for you in the fridge along with chocolate pudding." And when he hears that there's spaghetti, he's like, "Oh man!" And when he looks at the spaghetti, he's like, "Oh man!" Like it's not a plate of broccoli, Junior. It is delicious looking spaghetti. You're about to have a meal of spaghetti and chocolate pudding, and you're kind of bummed about one half of that equation. Josh sucks.
Josh does go on an arc in this episode. He had to learn some things. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But it was an absurd bowl of pudding.
I mean, I didn't want to hit our listeners with too much too soon, but the fact that he then proceeds to stick his fingers directly into the pudding is another deeply troubling element of this episode.
Gross, but the most believable thing that happens the whole episode.
Yeah,
that's true.
Josh does seem like somebody who would do that. I wasn't as thrown by it because I think if you've ever made the instant chocolate pudding, you do kind of have to make it for an army.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right. I do love me some chocolate pudding, so I wouldn't be mad at the vat. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I do want to see the extended scene where Josh goes home after all of this. His parents are there tapping their foot going, 1, where were you? 2, why is there pudding everywhere? 3, where did you get a comical amount of cigars that you burned in our microwave?
But also, what happened to the like Zebo came and poured out the spaghetti and then put the cigars in instead?
I guess
he's a clown, so I like to imagine he put a single strand in his mouth, sucked, and then it was all gone.
Amazing. You want to chalk it up just like magic, creepy ghosts, but then there's the Zebo footprint in the pudding to suggest like he's been in the kitchen, he's been up to some mischief.
A clown shoe footprint, which is just great touch.
With a Z, which implies he's got his own like branded merch, which is great.
Like just in case you didn't know who it was. It's Zebo.
Oh no, like honestly, it's very The Great Gatsby. Because you've got that same branded Z like in the center of the foyer of the creepy door room, right? Like,
yep.
So there you have it.
I just came up with a potentially horrifying or phenomenal crossover, but I would love to see Mulder and Scully show up to investigate after Josh has like disappeared, right? Josh actually does not appease Zebo. Josh is gone, and Mulder and Scully have to come in and talk to the people and we hear the story through their investigation.
That's such a fun, like, just like fanfic website idea is just take Are You Afraid of the Dark Stories? And then Mulder and Scully have to come for the aftermath.
Exactly right.
Frankly, there's enough for a full podcast there.
100%. Cut this part out because we're going to be rich when we make this.
Oh, goodness. All right. That was fun, Randy. Synopsis, amazing as always. You do what you do very, very well. Now that we've all gotten to know each other through our shared childhood trauma, thank you. Are You Afraid of the Dark? It's time to get into some more of our personal connections. So we've done origin stories. We get that. But are there any memories, any special memories you have tied to the episode? Tyler, you got into this a little bit with the series overall. Is there anything else you want to expound upon?
Yeah, I mean, it was just I watched this when it like first came on with my family. So truly, like, it's a little twisted, but I do think of this episode as being synonymous with my mom, my dad, my brother, us gathered around, us watching this thing, us indulging in a little bit of horror, which I think, like, I always say the cool people do. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't like horror. That's fine. You can still be cool, but cool people like horror. And I just think of just gathering around with my family. I think of us referencing Zebo the Clown. I think of us, I mentioned VHSs before, but my parents, every time like ABC would do its Friday night lineup or something like that, and it coincided with Halloween, where it was just going to be a block of Halloween episodes, my parents had the forethought to record all of them. So it could be like, we would just be sitting around being like, can we watch the Halloween VHS? And it would be like the episode of Home Improvement, followed by, whatever other sitcoms were on at the time. And just, so we'd watch these episodes of certain shows on repeat. We just loved Halloween. We loved scary stuff. And it's sort of a thing that bonded us all. And later on in the episode, when we talk about, like, I'll talk a little bit about my affection for horror and how I got into like the adult horror genre and how I also did that way too young, thanks to my older brother. But it's like horror in general and scary stories are a bonding experience I have with my family and particularly my older brother. So it's just, it's great. And like, truly, I think if I were to put a headline photo on the essay that is Tyler's affection for horror, Zebo the Clown is that headline. I'm not particularly scared of clowns, or the mannequin puppet in particular, but as we get on further, I'll tell you exactly what scared the hell out of me about this episode. But Allie, I'll let you go next if you want to talk about your personal connection.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny just rewatching it, just remembering the actual feelings you had on your first watch when you were a child. Because as a kid, it really did scare me. And I remember like a sense of doom and certain things that are tropes in horror movies. This was maybe my first exposure to that, like, things like the phone call or, somebody following you home, coming to you, like coming and demanding something from you. The relentlessness of it, the intruder in your house, all of that was so, I was like, oh my God, they've broken the scare puzzle. Like, this is how you scare people. And then you realize, oh, like every horror movie prior to this has done these tropes. But as a kid, it's a great entryway for these tropes, and in an approachable but still scarring way.
Approachable but still scarring. I've heard that before. Randy, what about you? Do you have any like visceral memories tied to the series?
I think I got so excited earlier to talk about my Meme and Pepe's house that I might have shared that most important memory already. However, I do want to briefly harken back to our Halloween episode with my buddy John Courtrial. And we talked about the house in the neighborhood with the way too scary decorations. So I probably drove by that house earlier in the evening before we sat down to Are You Afraid of the Dark? So just to add a little extra flavor and dimension to that story.
You put me right in a time and a place I can picture. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a ton of like specific memories about watching the show on the regular, but I associate it very much with my older brother as well. Tyler, he and I were a year and a half apart, so most of what we did together, and he was much more inclined to this kind of a thing than I was. Like, I remember when he was in the 3rd grade and I was only in the 2nd grade, he was like going to a friend's house to sleep over to watch specifically scary movies, Nightmare on Elm Street and all the rest. And that wasn't me, but this was like accessible, and this was a show that I could, a bit like Josh, I guess, like sort of prove your bravado, like get through the episode and be like, okay, whew, I did it. we did it. That was sort of always my experience with watching this show, because it's never like the first genre I want to run to. Like when I think about watching television, when I'm taking in media, I usually seek comfort, good feelings, things that maybe move me emotionally, challenge me, but I don't usually go for thrillers. And I love discovering each time I can do this. That was, in fact, fun. I had a friend recently, one of my best friends, we grew up together, I've known him since I was 10, and this maybe a year ago now. He asked me if I wanted to go to the movies. A movie was coming out, he was excited to see, and he wanted me to go with him. And I didn't need to know anything else besides that. So I said yes. Mm-hmm. And then I can't even remember that it was to do with demons, and a mom was possessed, and she like tried to kill her children. And I'm in a theater, and I'm watching this demon-possessed mother try to kill her children while chewing glass in the kitchen. And it was horrifying, and I wished I wasn't watching it, but then at the same time, when I left, I couldn't stop talking about it. This show very much was that for me as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
That's horror, man. It's a ride. Oof. Not to sound all Glenn Powell from Twisters, but it's about getting through it. It's about yeah.
It's about the thrill of getting through it. I don't mind clowns. I think the Joker is my first sort of standard for what a bad clown is, and that he was never scary to me. He was always like intimidating and threatening and menacing, but not scary in the same way that horror genre stuff is scary. So clowns for me were never too spooky. This is scary more because of the setup for the clowns rather than the look of the clown itself. I was going to say, my wife walked in the room right as Zeebo was revealed. She went, "Oh!" So it definitely works.
At this point, for me, when I watched this for the first time, we weren't like big circus feel like we went to the circus like every so often, but we didn't have a lot of money growing up, so it wasn't like we could have the ability to go and see all of that. So my main exposure of clowns had been like seeing bits and pieces of the Tim Curry It miniseries. So I feel like I already had a bad vibe when it came to clowns, and then this was like cementing it in my 5-year-old brain. So I never got to see clowns without having a menacing idea behind it, which I wonder what that's like as a child to not have an inherent fear of clowns. But I do think the show in general primed me, because we were a big horror movie household in general, or just like cinema files household. So we watched a lot of like classics, and that included a lot of entries into the horror genre. And it kind of prepared me to watch things like The X-Files and Buffy the Vampire Slayer is my absolute favorite show ever. And now I do feel like when I watch horror movies, I'm not scared by them. I feel like it was like exposure therapy watching Are You Afraid of the Dark as a child.
Nice.
Exposure
you were talking
therapy.
You were talking briefly about, it's hard not to, and I like that you warned the listeners up top too. We're going to be talking about clowns, and a lot of people do have this phobia of clowns. And one might think that Allie and I choosing this episode and watching this episode so young may have inspired a fear of clowns in me. And no, like I don't fear clowns. The scares from this episode come from somewhere else. That said, for my money, Pennywise noted, all up the Terrifier, which I haven't seen, but like all other creepy clowns noted, this episode 100% has the creepiest image of a clown, and it is not the thing that pops out of the wall. It is not the weird Zeebo that sort of is briefly there when the kid is going through the haunted house saying, "Oh, I know you're there, old man." It is the very brief half a second they show the quote unquote real Zeebo in the newspaper with the hilarious headline, "Cagey Clown Caught in Calamity." And they have a picture, not a mugshot, but almost like a headshot of the actual Zeebo. And it's in black and white, and it's absolutely horrifying. It's truly one of the scariest images. I'm going to see if I can put it in the chat for you guys, but.
Oh yeah, 1,000,000%.
Yeah, as soon as you began to describe, I knew where you were going with that.
Because if you're listening and you don't know what I'm talking about, please go Google it, because just words can't do it justice. It's terrifying. I mentioned horror and my older brother and getting into it in my adult life. And I just, want to shout him out, because the first like real horror movies I saw, I again saw way too young. Kris, it's so cool that your brother was only like a year and a half apart, because you guys were kind of contemporaries in that way. My brother is a full 4 years apart from me. So like he's exiting high school while I'm entering all of this stuff. But I have vivid memories of our parents taking us to Blockbuster and just cutting us loose, being like, pick out a movie, you can rent it. And so like I'm going up to my dad with an age appropriate movie. My brother's going up with like Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, because he's, 12, 13. He's age appropriate for those. And then, God love my parents. I don't know if this was on purpose or if they just truly didn't care, but there was no policing whether or not I watched my brother's movie or vice versa.
Yep.
So my brother Ryan would just be like, I've got the new Halloween. Tyler, you want to see this movie? It's about a guy who just kills a bunch of babysitters. And I'm like, yeah. I think he like kind of would describe it as like, are you afraid of the dark, but boss level? And it's like, yeah, I'm into that. Let's do that. And that was, so I saw like, you know, a lot of the Halloween franchise before I was like 10, just going through it with my brother. And it was great.
That's wonderful. So you're actually like my younger brother. So my younger brother is 7 years behind me. And so
wow.
He was getting pulled along much more quickly than probably other kids his age, because same, my parents didn't really think to say like, don't watch what your brothers are watching. If we were watching it, he probably watched it too.
Yep. And they probably knew it was a fool's errand in our house to be like, no, Tyler, you can't watch that. It's like, watch me pull off an Ocean's 11 style caper to watch it under your nose.
Yeah. They'd almost be better off just saying, go ahead and watch it. And then you probably wouldn't be bothered.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know what we haven't talked about yet? We've talked a lot about the show itself, this episode, the series kind of in general. We haven't really talked about the theme song or the opening credit sequence. Anybody want to jump in with the kinds of feelings they feel when they first hear this theme song? I'm going to call in the class. I'm pulling a Randy. Allie, we're going to go to you.
You know, it really did, as a child, when that came on, it set the mood in that it was almost scarier than the following episode. Like,
oh, yeah.
The weird isolation of like the canoe and the idea of being alone in the woods that it kind of gives you. And then the thing that stuck with me my whole life has been that friggin' doll or ventriloquist dummy or whatever it is in the attic, that it is clearly made to be horrific, but just, God, what an effective freaking little guy.
And he just comes and goes quick, and he's so impactful. He's so scary.
And he's like staring right down the barrel of the camera.
Yeah. Some prop master found that at like a yard sale or something like that and was like, I think we got something here.
Yeah, I've got a yes and the creepy clown doll. I don't really care about clowns, but dolls and ventriloquist dummies in particular do me in. As a kid, someone in my family had like a Charlie McCarthy, like vintage era, like ventriloquist dummy, and I was terrified of it. And I had this nightmare when I was 4 or 5 years old that this thing came to life, climbed onto my bed, and said he would bite my fingers off. So I am still deeply troubled by those things.
Do you have older siblings?
No, I am the oldest, but that one just messed with me.
If you said yes, I was going to be like, no, that was an older sibling puppeteering it at the foot of your bed.
But yeah, just those eerie tones too. The ooh, like hitting that really creepy ethereal level.
And it's really effective too, just from like a this being on a children's network standpoint, because that show really sets the mood. It sets the tone. Yeah. A lot of the episodes do open. This in particular, Laughing in the Dark, I believe, is the one episode that doesn't start around the campfire. It starts right into the story, because they want to do the whole like record scratch, like, wait, it's a clown story kind of thing. Most of them, or all the others, start with the Midnight Society, and that can be a little jovial, a little jocular. They're all excited to be there because they're the cool kids. They're the horror kids, man. Yeah. But what this episode and what that theme song does rather is it sets the tone. If you're a kid who's never watched Are You Afraid of the Dark before and you're not sure if you can handle it, if the theme song gets you, it's time to switch off. It's time to go somewhere else, because that's as dark as it's going to get.
Perfectly stated, because, I was 5 or 6 watching this. I was looking at the year. This was 94. I was 6. My daughter's 5.5. She also tends to like creepier things. And I'm considering introducing her to the show. But the opening credits are the immediate litmus test, right? Like, I'll know in the first 30 seconds whether or not she's into this, or she'll know immediately whether or not she's into this, which is great. You don't waste any time. If you can't handle the credits, you can't handle the episode, we'll just try again later.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was gonna say it's a way better theme song than the Goosebumps one. I think they do a lot. The Goosebumps one was too fun. And had a dog that was cute. Like this one really just gets you there.
The Goosebumps one's a bit of a toe tapper too. Like it's fun, it's catchy, and it's like that's not what's for sale here, friends.
Right. It's like actually a song, whereas like Are You Afraid of the Dark is much more minimal, right? It's more vibes than any intentional melody or anything like that, right? So for me, because I had that aspect of watching this that felt a little bit rebellious, right? There was like a sleepover type thing. When I hear these opening notes, when I first fired it up for this rewatch, that was kind of the first thing that hit me. Rather than the creep and the fear, it was more like the thrill of like, oh my gosh, I'm about to watch Are You Afraid of the Dark, and I'm not supposed to watch this. So it still has that for me. And then immediately the creep factor sets in. Allie, you said it perfectly. Isolation. You highlighted that the rowboat is like isolated, or the canoe. The whole thing feels like intentionally isolated. They're showing you these images that are familiar to you and subverting them with the colorway, with the absence of any activity. For me, it's the swing set. We were 90s kids, right? We were constantly out of the house. And the nearby playground was like common stomping grounds. That's where you spend a ton of time. The playground for me, the swing sets, that's a place of joy, of life, of sunlight and laughter.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a young kid, seeing like this swing set swinging on its own with nobody around, there's no kids laughing, there's no sun, that like affected me as a kid, and it still did on the rewatch.
That and the rowboat, it also too it invokes the swing set is moving. The rowboat is in the water and its oars are down, but there's no one on the swing set. There's no one in the rowboat. Something happened there, and it's scary. You don't know what. For me, it's also too. Those are definitely my favorites. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the keyhole and the light shining through, because it's very much like you think like, what is that light? If I were to look through that, what am I going to see? Or what's worse is like, am I looking inside a room to see what horrors are in there? Or am I in the room with the horrors and that'll show me what's outside? Like it invokes this sort of paranoia.
Oh, damn, Tyler. Damn.
Yeah, I love that focus on the motion. It's just so dynamic. Like even before the clown doll hits you, you're kind of coming up out of the floor. There's like that little child laughter. Beautiful stuff.
And then just the imagery, the iconic imagery of just them holding the match and then it goes out. Like, yep, it's dark now.
Barely reveals the title and then goes out. Yeah, I mean, I think we kept saying that this like isn't high art. I feel like the more we talk about it, we're uncovering a lot of really impressive intentionality in the way they curated the vibe of this very campy show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing something with each episode, with each decision. They're doing something, and that thing they're doing is frightening children.
Yeah.
In the best way, man.
Yeah.
But I would almost say the theme song has better production value than anything you ever see on the show.
Oh, yeah.
Fair. Yeah.
Well, speaking of this question of high art, this is usually the point on the show where we will like torture our guests. We will make them find something that is flawed with a piece of art that they love, a piece of media that they love. But the thing is, with Are You Afraid of the Dark, we're certainly going to be poking fun at it. Like, obviously, there are budget issues, there are acting issues, things like that. So instead of asking you to find a flaw, I thought it might be a little bit more fun to share something really special about this particular episode, Zeebo the Clown. I think we've spoken in a broad way about why that's so special. But maybe there's an individual moment or a decision that steps closer to the threshold of high art for you. Let's see. Allie, what do you think? Do you have an answer for this one?
I think because, if you're doing a horror show, you have to have a clown episode. They knock it out like episode 2. They're like, yeah, clown, funhouse, spooky funhouse. And so it can get kind of cliche when you have so much, scary clown media, especially, nowadays. But I do love the use of the balloon under the door when when Zeebo's locked out and banging on the door, trying to get to the kid, telling him to give the nose back. And then his way of reaching him is to blow that balloon under the door. I think that's so imaginative and just so freaking creepy. And again, showing like that he's got this weird magic about him. So what else can he do? Because how did he get a balloon that says "give it back"?
And that creepy ongoing refrain of "give it back."
Ooh. Yep.
Yeah, he wants his nose, man.
He does.
And more to the point, he wants to punish this kid, and that's why I love that scene as well. And that's sort of my answer, where it dips into high art. You know, in this context, when we talk about high art, what we kind of maybe should be talking about is just the horror genre. And for me, it's that, like, it's silly, it's wild. He's got a clown shoe stepped in pudding that has a Z on it. That's really goofy. But at the same time, like, you put yourself in that kid's shoes. It's goofy, but this clown is in your home and he's coming for you because you wronged him. And for me, it's all just, the cigars are creepy. It's a little supernatural. It's a scare that you'll see in a lot of these Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes. Yep. The episode Allie's favorite, where it's like there's aliens using sound and you do see the aliens, and you know, that's sort of the creepy shot. Like Quicksilver, eventually you'll see a ghost. Ghastly Grinner, eventually you see the Ghastly Grinner. But in this person's in his house. He runs upstairs like all kids would do. He locks his door. And what we see before the balloon are like his feet under the door, like the light's shining. And we see, look, silly, goofy, weird, whatever. There is someone in your house. It may be a ghost. It may be a carnival barker. It may be a criminal, whatever. You are not safe. There is someone in your house. And what does he do in that moment? He calls Luigi, and it's his humbling moment. He's like, look, he may as well be saying, I put up a bullying front because I'm terrified all the time. That didn't work for me. In fact, it got me in a lot of trouble. I'm a coward. I'm scared. Please, like, tell me this is you. Tell me this is a prank. I need out of this situation because I cannot deal. And Luigi cannot give him that. And so what does he have to do? He has to freaking dive out of his window, rob a cigar shop, and go confront not
As
just
one
Zebo.
does.
Exactly. And he has to go confront not just Zebo, but his own, you know, bad personality, his own bad decisions. It's such a not come to Jesus moment, but it's just, he just reached such a peak of fear. And again, it was played for laughs because it's a children's thing, but that idea that someone's in your home, someone's out to get you. There's a great shot in the movie The Rental, which we did on our podcast, where you think kind of this movie is about like one of these people in this group of friends is messing with the other. And there's just a moment where every single person is accounted for. All the characters we know are accounted for. And you just see another figure. And it's like, it's mind blowing because it's like someone is out to get them. It's not a mystery. There's not going to be some Scooby-Doo reveal. And I think that is some of my favorite horror. I didn't walk away from this with a fear of clowns. I walked away from this with more of fear of villains and monsters, and the moment where you can no longer deny or explain away some of these horrors that you're experiencing. There's 2 footprints under that door. I have to deal with that. That's scary. That's horror. And I think that's the main thing I think about, other than that black and white photo, when I think about Zebo the Clown.
Love that. I mean, even he like sees the cigars come out of the microwave, and it's now real. Oh my God, there's something very real happening here. I mean, he leaps out a window, right? To your point, it's real enough. He's not going through that door. He's not exploring his house. To his credit, we see Josh, and I'm going off on a tangent now, but we do see Josh go on a bit of an arc in this episode, right? Like pretty standard bully, but at the same time proves himself. He's scared in the funhouse, and he still overcomes and steals the nose to win the bet. When he thinks he's under attack in the house, he opens the closet door that he thinks somebody is hiding behind, baseball bat in hand, and like ready to swing. Josh is not a good kid, but he proved himself quite a bit in this. He does go on an arc. He and Ouija have an apology moment on the phone. And that's even before he's confessing, you know, his ultimate confession of fear and repenting. Repentance brings me to what really sticks with me from this episode. It scares me in horror when we're telling stories about people getting their just desserts, right? At no point is Josh under the false perception that this is somehow unfair. This is happening to him for no reason. To your point, he's being punished for a thing he did. He went out of his way to antagonize this clown, be it due to bravado or whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's getting what he deserves, right? Like this Zebo doesn't just want his nose back. He wants to make this kid pay. As a kid, that concept of like having to pay for whatever mistake you may or may not have made, a very scary reality, right? We all hope to find grace, but demons and ghosts and terrifying clowns, they don't come with grace. They come with punishment.
Yeah.
And sometimes these stories resolve when the character can repent. Like that's enough of a, like whatever they have to find inside of themselves and say out loud is like enough to break the curse, break the magic.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, that isn't really it. Like this episode really could have resolved with Josh confessing out loud to Ouija and telling him he was scared the whole time on the ride earlier that day, the whole thing.
Yep.
It could have ended there. The shadow could have disappeared. The smoke could have dissipated. You know, Ouija could have been laughing at him, and it could have been Josh's moment just to feel embarrassed and just to sit with that, right? He can't prove that it was real. And now Ouija thinks that he's a wimp, but you know what? Fine. At least I survived.
Yep.
So yeah, it doesn't do that, but it could have, and it would have been just fine because that piece of it is what really is for me so stinking scary.
Nice.
And also to your point too, when you're a kid, when you're a child, which we all were when we were watching this, what is like, yes, scary clowns are scary, vampires are scary, but the tangible thing, the thing that we can all understand, whether or not we've confronted a vampire or a killer clown, we can all understand being afraid of punishment. We can all understand doing a bad thing and being terrified of the punishment that comes, because that's the sword that's hanging over your head when you're a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. I just want to round us out with two little filmmaking things that I really liked. And one of them was during that balloon sequence that Allie mentioned. The posters in his room are like askew. They're on these weird angles, not unlike the doors in the funhouse that are just kind of subtly off-putting. And then I loved the cut where Josh grabs Ouija.
Yeah,
like flips him around, and it flips us all the way back to Playland. Is a fun little movie making moment.
We noted that too when we were watching. I also do think it was a very clever, because the thing that hits me and that always stuck with me as a kid is I wasn't afraid of a clown following me, like a supernatural clown following me home. I was afraid of just a person following me home. So it plays on the fear of someone in your house, and you're a kid home alone, your parents are at work very well. And I liked the reveal of he can no longer pretend it's his friend bothering him or something because he hears the voice on the phone, and his friend says that has to be, when the pickup happens, and he's like, "Is that your sister on the phone?" He's like, "No, we only have one phone. It has to be at your house." Yeah. So to realize that is a person in your house, and then he hears that, "Give it back." And he knows that clown is downstairs. He knows exactly what phone he's at. And that's a fear that, like, our generation is basically going to be the last one to have because of the landlines, too. Like, you can't do that with a cell phone. So that specific fear and that specific reveal is really well done.
Yeah.
And he hears Luigi say, like, "Who was that?" Like, Luigi heard it too.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Which, to your point, it takes it out of the realm of like pure ghost haunting. This isn't just like some supernatural clown. There's a physical being physically in your house who had to pick up your other line to be creepy on it. That's way scarier than like just a ghost who can like manifest cigars or what have you.
Call the police, but they might not save you. Like that like that's real. That's hardcore.
Well, I think that we have given this show and this episode the praise it rightly deserves. I don't think we have to reach very far there to really celebrate the art on display. But as we move now into our sort of episode as literature segment, I'm excited to get into some of the other aspects of it, specifically the humor, because the show is campy. It does have its moments of silliness. So I would love to just do like a little round table moment. We can run through everybody and talk about if there's anything in this episode that just really kind of got you giggling or made you feel like it was a little bit silly. Ready to mix it up? Let's start with you. We've been putting our guests on the hot seat all night.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna open with our guy Josh here. I kept thinking the whole time that this guy could absolutely unravel Marty McFly because he loves to call someone a chicken. He loves to do a cluck, cluck, cluck. He won't let it go. And like pretty early on, I already forgot her name, Kathy, whatever the sister's name is.
Kathy.
She defends herself. She says, "I'm not a chirpy chicken." And Josh follows up with the pun. That's funny. Smells a little foul to me.
Hell yeah.
So just like the really bad chicken humor, the puns that like that kid did not write, that clearly an adult wrote. Loved that whole bit.
And that's right before Kathy straight up lays him out on the lawn, right?
Yeah, with a trash can lid.
Yeah. Don't mess with the little sister.
Yeah, let's throw it to you, Tyler. Trash can lids aside.
Yeah, that was great. I do really like the sort of hard cut from when he snatches the nose and he escapes the funhouse. Just the hard cut to Luigi wearing the nose, looking miserable on his own front porch. I think that's a very funny shot. I also really kind of I don't know if it's like funny, but it always makes me laugh. The moment where Luigi and Kathy, he gets frustrated and he throws the nose, which he later apologizes for, and Josh goes to get it. And Luigi and Kathy kind of have this moment where they look at each other and they're like, why are we hanging out with this guy? Let's go inside. Like, screw this dude. Like, I'm done here today. I think that's very funny. Just kids being like, what are we doing here? That's great. Kids getting fed up is very funny to me.
Yeah, especially like the precocious younger sister calling it out. Like, what is with this creep?
Yeah.
Big bro. Real DW moment.
She's like, I expect better from you.
Oh, yeah.
Snot, yeah.
Speaking of DW, did you notice we have some Arthur alums in the cast? Kiki of the Midnight Society is Francine from Arthur, the animated series. And our girl Kathy is also an Arthur alum. She portrays Prunella, not quite as central a character as Francine. That's like the very tall, thin, I don't know, some kind of a dog. Yeah.
Still quite the connection.
So yeah, it's funny that DW made it into the chat.
I did see, I think a lot of these folks, I was expecting perhaps within the cast there to be some surprises of like, oh my gosh, that was so-and-so, Glenn Powell when he was young, but less of that happening, but a lot of future voice work for these young folks.
I did have one that excited me. Did you get any good revelations there, Kris?
No. What did you see?
Okay, well, Kristen is all over my favorite stuff. Most importantly, I love Flight of the Conchords.
Oh, yeah.
You know that she is literally the most beautiful girl in the room, Sally, from the first season of Flight of the Conchords.
Oh, wow.
She was also, she replaced Alicia Silverstone as Cher when they made the Clueless TV show. So that was like the first thing I saw her in.
Right. Yeah, and you can tell she's the one who had more going on because she has like a grown-up photo on IMDb. The rest of them have no photos or just like an image from this episode.
And
she also dips out of the show pretty fast. Like they had to bring in another blonde girl to replace her.
Yeah, Clueless was 96, so this was right on the heels.
And I mean,
that was right on the heels of this.
She wasn't a central character, but she was a presence in season 1 of Fargo as well. So there you go.
Who was she in Fargo?
She was, I believe, the sister-in-law.
Oh, I'll be damned.
Like Martin Freeman's sister-in-law or something like that. It's been a minute since I watched season 1, but yeah.
Allie, was there a humorous moment that you wanted to highlight before we move on?
Yes. The funhouse itself has an area that you walk through where in the pathway of where you're walking, a dragon mouth comes out and spits actual fire directly at the children. Like he avoids it, but it's not like it sprays in the air. Like, occasionally a ride I've been on, like, will have like a little bit of a fire element. This has a real flamethrower fire element in the pathway that you're walking through.
Yeah.
The lawsuits that will go on, not just for Zebo following people home, but the fire that is sure to catch on some child at some point.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that's part of a funhouse.
Yeah, and indoors.
Yeah.
Indoors,
Yeah.
exactly right.
And a previous iteration of this attraction did, in fact, burn to the ground.
Yes,
I
you're
don't learn
right.
that lesson.
You're absolutely right. No one's learning lessons except Josh in this episode. And you're right, Ellie. Not only does he have to, it breathes fire down the path that the kid has to go. And do you know how he avoids getting lit aflame? He times it. That's not okay. Someone is going to get burned.
Yeah, we can't be playing live action video games with the children in the playhouse.
Exactly.
No.
It's the one thing he doesn't seem to, he's not at all concerned about it. He doesn't check that at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he expected to find that in the funhouse.
Most normal thing in the world.
There be dragons
kid
here.
Stuff. Kid stuff, he says.
There's going to be a huge just flamethrower just aiming flames at me, as you do in a funhouse.
That's so funny that you're right. He does. He calls it kid stuff. And frankly, literal fire breathing dragon, I'd say at least teen stuff.
Yeah.
At least. Oh, good stuff. Good
that's
stuff.
so funny.
Yeah. I think we've hit all the funny stuff that I had to talk about, right? We talked about the brown paper bag and the cigars. Where did that come from? And although, again, maybe, I don't know where they live in the country, the Midwest somewhere. Maybe somebody did just sell some 12-year-old a box of cigars without thinking too much about it. I don't know. It's like barely the 90s at this point, so who knows?
I have one nitpick that I'll waste everyone's time with briefly, which is the line, pick the right door and you'll go free. Pick the wrong door and there he'll be. That implies two doors. There are several door options you can go through where neither of that is true. I stop.
Where do the other doors go?
Yeah, he opens one and it's just, I think it's like a Frankenstein head being like, bleh, but it's like.
Yeah, it's like a bobbing skeleton situation.
Yeah.
Just quick shout out to Kathy. Don't mess or I'll bung you in the head.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Did she step right up? She was ready to throw down.
That's little sibling energy. Sometimes you have to fight your older siblings' friends.
Oh.
Yes.
Of course, Josh just emptying out the entire silverware drawer when he starts panicking.
That to me was the goofiest. I'm glad I had forgotten about that.
Yeah.
It's inexplicable. He's like not otherwise panicking too much. He just is inexplicably taking handfuls.
He didn't quite sell it in the performance. I think there's a version of that on the page that works as a bit that we didn't quite get.
Exactly right. You can see like what they were going for, but it doesn't come across. It just feels like he doesn't know how to set the table, right?
Yeah.
Because then to further exemplify,
I mean, he eats pudding with his fingers, man.
Dude,
what do you expect?
Not a fork and knife.
He goes to the microwave, right? And he says, "How did this burn so fast?" And then grabs the ceramic bowl with his bare hands and removes it from the
smoking.
microwave.
So
smoking.
He doesn't know that there's cigars in there. You're thinking this is on fire.
It's so hot, his spaghetti is smoking, and he just bare hands it out of the microwave.
Mm-hmm.
Josh's got some lessons to learn. I think that's the theme, the moral of this episode.
I remember as a kid watching it thinking that the reason he was unloading the silverware drawer was because he was trying to arm himself. And it was like moments after he just picked up a baseball bat. So I remember as a kid watching it and just always being like, get the bat. Do the bat. You should get the bat. Don't use the butter knife. Get the bat.
Yeah.
He talks to himself so much throughout this episode. Just like I talk to myself like a decent amount, but I would say even I'm calling that. Like nobody monologues throughout like their house and like throughout the fun house.
Come on, Josh. Everyone's going to think you're a laughing stock. Like just add another character if that's the way you got to do this narratively.
Well, that's the problem, right? The writers left him alone and they still want all of this sort of scene setting. It's like they wanted the internal monologue of a comic book character to benefit poor Josh. This young actor had a lot to do.
Mm-hmm.
In Josh's defense, never do I talk. I'm not a big like talk to myself guy until I'm playing a horror video game, and then I will not shut up. So I get it.
Yeah, like the moments of like come on, Josh, just get the nose. Those are believable moments. A little like self-encouragement. But yeah, Allie, to your point, he's like walking around the house. Like there's something wrong with him. He's narrating everything he does.
This kid is so lonely.
Oh, latchkey kid. Randy,
Yes.
what's next?
Well, we're going to move on. We captured some humorous moments, and we've dipped into this supply a little bit already. But I want to hit some of our favorite moments of fear, because at the end of the day, Zebo does get the last laugh in this episode. And I want to honor that and continue to point out those moments that really, truly spooked us. And in the spirit of kinship that you offered to me, Kris, I'm going to throw this one right back to you. What's your top moment of fear?
What a guy. We haven't talked much about this yet, but Zebo quite literally got the last laugh.
Mm-hmm.
When, like, creepy carny guy, who I guess is Zebo's ghost, in fact, Aaron Tager, who portrayed Zebo, he's credited as Carney / Zebo. So I think at least IMDb is confirming.
Can I add as well? For long time, Are You Afraid of the Dark fans, it's hard to recognize him because he does look so different. He is also Dr. Vink with a va. This was his first appearance, so was the performance that made people like him on the show, and then say, "Let's give you a recurring character."
They liked him because he's terrifying. He's excellent, right? So that he laughs a couple of times earlier. He says, when you're laughing in the dark, ha ha ha. The last laugh, when he's like, he seems so self-satisfied, right? Like the giggle he gives with that last delivery of laughing in the dark. It's like it's like he's not laughing to be creepy. He's like actually laughing, like he's overcome with self-satisfied glee. And that for me is the scariest moment. His teeth are awful. His skin is awful. He's smoking a cigar. You're now putting two and two together. Like he was kind of the spook behind the whole thing.
Yeah.
Outside of some of the other things we've already talked about, that laugh at the very, very end really got me.
He also he laughs so hard, and then he sort of gets a little like reinvigorated laugh when he notices the giant like bust of Zebo that hangs over the top of the ride. Smoke is emanating out of its cigar, so he almost has this moment of like he's laughing with whatever entity may or may not be inside the funhouse as well.
Yes, they're laughing together. You hear the Zebo like automated laugh and his laugh, they combine. It's very scary.
It's so creepy. and it's just like, what a great ending.
Yeah.
All right. Tyler, let's go to you for your moment of fear.
Yes, I've talked about, I think, a couple of the ones that really stuck with me. There is the black and white image of Zebo. That is harrowing. I truly can't express enough how much that image is stuck with me. And I alluded to it a little earlier as well, and I think I'll just sort of restate. It is the moment, the balloon underneath the door is definitely terrifying, but I just think that whole runner, that is like the climax of our story. And it is the whole idea of someone is in your house. It is unignorable. You are in danger. I think as a kid, the adrenaline, even as an adult watching a couple nights ago, with my wife, who I know will fight anyone for me, I was still scared of just the adrenaline surge that causes. And yeah, I think it's just like any nightmare I can remember having that makes me like wake up in a cold sweat, possibly screaming or something like that. What jars me out of a sound sleep is that moment of like, this is real. This is happening to you. You cannot go to your happy place. You enter a room and Chucky is there. You can't ignore it. You enter a room, a demon, a ghoul, a goblin is there. And that is the feet under the door for me. Luigi's not doing that. Luigi, your parents, whatever, that's Zebo. He's on the phone. You know right where he is in your home on the landline. That, I think, is the scariest part of the whole episode by design, for sure. But I will give a special shout out to whoever designed the Zebo puppet, not obviously the iconic one that is going to come up when you search Zebo the Clown on Google, but there is just that brief one inside the funhouse when he's in the funhouse mirror and he's like, what am I to you, some kind of clown? And then there's another creepier puppet that repeats that to him. That's scary. I've been to a lot of like haunted houses. Allie and I love to go to them on Halloween and stuff like that. And an effect where a ghoul or goblin or something like that repeats my words to me, creepy. Not into it.
Perfect. And Allie, what's your moment of fear from this episode?
Well, so we talked about, like Tyler was just talking about that whole scene of Zebo being in the house. I talked about the phone call and the balloon, but the moment in between when the phone call confirms that there's somebody in the house and Zebo says to him, like, if you don't give it back, I'll have to come upstairs and get it. He knows that he's about to be like attacked, that there's moments that he's going to be confronted by this clown. And this dumbass kid has come into his room to hide, and he has the moment of where he turns and looks and realizes that he didn't latch the what is that? What kind of lock is that called? But he has that the sliding
little
lock
slide thing there.
Yeah, the slide lock in his, which no kid would have because your parents would not be able to get into your room ever. But he does have a sliding latch lock, and he hasn't latched it. You think there's somebody in your house, you haven't latched it, but that moment of where he's hiding on the opposite side of his bed, basically almost as far as he could be in the room from that lock to lock it. And he knows that Zebo's already coming upstairs, and he has to make that decision to get there to the door before Zebo gets there. That moment, any horror movie that has that sort of like adrenaline moment of can you make it there before the door opens, is very scary. And he barely does. Like as soon as he's pushing it shut and latching it, you're already hearing Zebo pulling at the doorknob.
It's almost like Zebo gives him the chance to get it locked first, so then he can creep him out with the rattle.
Yeah.
It's like simultaneous. He knows as soon as he get it locked, and then there's the rattle at the door handle and the jiggle of the lock. Zebo knows what he's doing.
Yeah, Zebo's been down this road before, where he's already killed the kid, and now he's sitting here with an uninflated balloon that he's taken the time to write "Give It Back" on. And now he doesn't get to use this prop? No. Let him close the door. There's a production value here.
I love the idea of of Josh bravely opening the door and Zebo like pulling it closed again.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
He catches him like mid-blow and he's like, hey!
Absolutely. Yeah, you guys captured my favorite moments of fear. The creepy clown photo was number one easily. One of the little animatronics in the funhouse is like holding his own head, which is kind of creepy. But I'm going to be playful with this one. I wonder if there's something subconsciously scary about the cigarette smoke when you're a kid in the early 90s. When we were at the height of the anti-smoking campaign, there's like this taboo associated with it. In third grade, I was in a play called Pinocchio, Don't Smoke That Cigarette. And I can't help but wonder if there was some subconscious layer of fear there at work.
It's also you're right, because I do think it harkens to a lot more than that, a lot more of the things we were warned about in the 90s. Don't smoke. And Zebo too, he's a criminal. He's a bank robber. He's on the run from the law. He's kind of nefarious. He's like the person your parents warn you about who might come up to you in a van and claim that he knows you, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I like that it sort of manifests too, broad daylight. They're just hanging out in their yard, and Zebo's kind of like in the backyard where there, but for the grace of God, go the kids who are just running around in the yard one day. Like we all can relate to that. It's what makes the ending of Halloween so scary, where they just show static shots of all the little nooks and crannies where Michael Myers could be hiding that exist in every neighborhood in every part of the world ever. This episode sort of takes place in a neighborhood and then a local carnival, like things that are very common.
All right. We've laughed. We've shivered in our boots. It's time to play some games. Anybody who knows our podcast knows that Randy is a games master, and he didn't let us down tonight. So we're going to do a few little mini games here. We're going to talk a little bit more about the performances in this episode and in the Midnight Society in general. So we've got 4 mini games. The first is, and the Emmy goes to. Then we'll talk more about Don't Call Us, We'll Call You. Third, I submit for approval of Media Lit. And last, Cast Into the Fire. So for the first, and the Emmy goes to, who gives us the most solid performance? It can either be one of our 4 main cast members from this episode or from one of the Midnight Society members in general at the top and bottom of the episode? Allie, we'll go to you first.
I mean, I think there's only really one answer, let's be honest. And that would be our Zeebo the clown. The voice acting in it is perfect. It's scary. I didn't realize it was the same actor playing the funhouse man who gives the story and then wraps it up. Also, super committed performance, very creepy, the right amount of campy, creepy, freaky. I think he does a fantastic job.
Yeah, tough to argue with.
Yeah. He also does
Tyler?
a good job of baiting the kid too, of like being like, "Oh, what? Are you not scared?" Like he's great at that. I obviously Allie's right. That is the right answer, but I would be remiss if we didn't look. The actor playing Josh is not the best actor, but this whole episode lives and breathes with him. He's talking to himself. He's, you know what I mean, acting up against nothing for a lot, which is hard for veteran actors to do. This is just a little kid doing his best. So I will say, like, you know, it'd be easy to be like, oh yeah, it's so cringy the way he talks to himself, but he this episode works because of him. It could have been a striking failure. It's not great, but he worked hard.
I am so glad you said that because Allie, you're right. Zeebo deserves the best actor Emmy, but if we're giving away like a difficulty Emmy, Josh has got the most to do here. For any performer, this kind of a story structure is challenging. Forget about for like a young kid. And if you look at his IMDb, it suggests there aren't a ton of credits before this. And so, yeah, he's carrying the whole dang thing. It actually could have come across way worse. The fact that the episode works at all is a huge credit to him, right? So maybe he didn't knock our socks off like veteran actor Aaron Tager, but kid was bringing something. Randy, anybody else you want to celebrate?
Yeah, I was a little bit torn on this one. I might have an honorable mention, but I'm going to give it to Jodie Ressler as Kiki. She is not central to this episode, but the level at which she is feeling it when she is just ripping into poor Kristen over the clowns. Like, how you doing now, Kristen? Did you make it through the story? You know, like you can see that future as Francine on Arthur. It makes me wonder if she read for DW because she was like definitely there, ready to just like drop the hammer down with full brute force.
Dude, so well said. There is a way she asks Kristen, like, so is Zeebo going to visit you tonight? And she like wags her lower jaw. She hangs her mouth open in the most like mocking, sarcastic, smiley way. And I was like, damn, I'd be really annoyed if I was on the receiving end of that look. Good stuff. I'm glad we were able to get into the Midnight Society a little bit. You know, they don't have the most screen time, but they are our main cast members, right? At the end of the day, they're who we spend the most time with over the course of the series. All right. Second mini game. Don't call us. We'll call you. No actor's favorite thing to hear. This is when we get to recast one of the performances in the episode. So tell me, which character is most desperate for a new casting call? This time we'll start with Tyler.
Yeah, you know, it's tough because there's like 4 people total in this cast, and I don't think anyone did a bad job. But I guess for me, and I don't know if this is a performance thing or a writing thing, but the precocious little sister at times, some of her reads, particularly when she's reading the newspaper article about Zeebo, there's just something about that reads very like phony, that reads very like it's like when you're watching a dancer dance and you can tell that they're counting their steps, that kind of thing. It's very, you know, and again, she's a little kid. So I recognize how much I'm punching down here. But also to the line where she hits him with the trash can. I get that that's supposed to be kind of a precocious, like hands on your hips kind of situation, like Erica from Stranger Things. But those kind of characters don't really do it for me. And so I think whether it's the performance or whether it's just the character, that's my vote.
More than fair. I won't say too much. I'll save it. Allie, going to you.
So, I mean, definitely all of the kids in every episode of these shows are going to be like school play level bad at acting. And, you know, that a lot of them, this is their first non-school play thing. So this isn't the cast of Stranger Things. You want to hold them up against each other. But I hate Josh so much. There's that moment where it was clearly the cut to commercial part where he's and that is about the level of enthusiasm and like acting ability and fear that he puts into that scene.
Yes.
But I also hold the director really accountable for that because I'm like, that's the take we're gonna go with. I want to see the other takes. You couldn't have said, hey, can you actually sound scared? So Josh takes me out of it because he has so many of those moments of like, you really need to be scared, but instead he's like, oh no,
It's funny. We just watched or I just watched Labyrinth for the first time, and there's so many there's so many scenes in that movie where there is just a baby actually crying, and it's a little upsetting.
Yeah.
And we were both kind of like, oh man, like don't do that to a kid.
Yeah.
But now that Allie mentions this, there is part of me that's like, I don't know, maybe someone should have frightened that child. Maybe someone should have revved a chainsaw near that kid to get that shot.
No, this is so fair, Allie, because the whole time I was like, was Budnick from Salute Your Shorts unavailable? Is that how we landed on this kid? Because he was giving me like some of those vibes, but not quite the right energy.
Yeah. They were both at the casting call. That is such a great pull. They were certainly both in the room for this one. I think you both really nailed it here. Kathy would have been my answer as well, not to punch down, but because I love that metaphor. Like a dancer who you know is counting their steps. These are the moments where you know they know they're acting. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's because it's the thing that was furthest away from their natural self, right? Because like, Kathy's better at other parts of the episode, but when they are going through the newspaper and they're doing these kind of like reactions, it feels more after school special than network TV, right? It feels like she knows she's saying a script. And Josh, it's in that moment of the scream where, like, in the moments where he's got the bat and he's being like, I need to step up here, like I'm going to open the closet and like whack the thing, he's a little bit more believable. Maybe that kid's just the bravest dude around because, to your point, Allie, when he had to be scared, he was acting and acting poorly, right? And there's nothing worse than like seeing the strings on the puppet, and those are those moments. So I don't just yes and that's all.
Yes,
great pulls. Randy,
anybody on the puppet? I love that.
Yeah. Anybody want to kick Randy?
It was Ouija for me. As much as I appreciated him, like, you know, doing his book report with all the stuff he collected from the library, as much as like that's probably the same level of acting I would have brought to the role. I wasn't feeling him, and at least I was having fun with Josh and with Ouija. It was just kind of a throwaway. I mean, I know someone's got to play the straight man to the other character, but they're kid actors. Again, not trying to punch down or be a jerk, but yeah.
No, you're right. It's more than fair. I will say kudos to that actor. Kudos to the character. That phone call to his buddy to proactively be like, hey, man, I was being a baby earlier. Just wanted to apologize.
Yeah.
What an emotionally intelligent, untoxic young man.
Great show.
I was really impressed by that.
I think it was manipulation. I'm going to argue with you on that. I think he was calling to be like, ooh, if I butter him up and I apologize, maybe I don't have to wear the nose.
You're right, because he does say in that call, like, I was thinking maybe we forget about the nose altogether.
But exactly. That's after they've both been genuine, because Josh actually responds with equal, like, grace. He's like, nah, man, I was giving you a hard time. Like, he acknowledged that he was being a shit.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right.
It's the only moment I don't root for Zebo in the entire thing.
Yeah, it's like, don't kill him yet. Let them heal this relationship moment. Then we chop him down. All right. We love.
What do you guys think Josh did after he like hung up the phone and realized that Luigi, after he heard "Give It Back"? Like, what do you think he did with the rest of his night?
Such a good question. He clearly didn't accompany his seemingly good friend Josh back to the play place.
When I write the novelization, Luigi will be part of the cigar heist.
I think Mulder and Scully are going to very much be concerned with why Ouija wasn't more concerned about what was happening in that moment.
Yes, they'll be the first one they interview.
Yeah. All right, so we've done some really good acting and some less than great acting. Now it's time for I submit for the approval of Media Lit. Which cast member would you most like to hang around the campfire with? And why, if you can justify it, just pull in a name. Allie, anybody you would love to chill with?
Anne was always my favorite. I felt like she told the best stories. I believe, this one was her, and then what's the one we were just talking about, the grinning guy, the
Ghastly Grinner.
Ghastly Grinner. That one was one of hers. And I feel like a lot of the members were mean to each other and really snarky. Like Kiki was very mean to all of the other members in the episodes we watched, and I was like, I don't remember this much bullying happening at the Midnight Society, but I don't feel like Betty Ann ever did that. She always came in with a really creative story and like she seemed to like that she was weird, and I think I could have hung out with her. Probably not now, but as a kid.
And one thing this episode does lack, because they wanted to do the whole Kiki's afraid of clowns bit, is I loved that the kids would do the thing where they're like, here's what the story's actually about. Like sometimes we think something is one thing, but then it's another. Sometimes we let our fears run us and things like that. They sort of give like a thesis statement before they jump into the story, which this episode doesn't have to its detriment. But I always thought, like you said, Allie, hers were among the best of those as well.
Great pull. I'll pivot when it's my turn because Bet was definitely near the top of my list. Yeah, she owns this story. Tyler, what about you?
I always had like an affection for Greg because I thought he was sort of, I don't know if they ever outright said it, but it felt like he was the person who organized the Midnight Society. He was always the one who doused the fire in the end and declared the meeting closed. He was, when they would bring in new members, he would be the one explaining the rules of like, you have to be invited to this group. This is a secret area. So I think like as a kid, part of me always wanted to cozy up to Greg because I wanted to be part of the Midnight Society. And you know, he just seemed like, I keep saying, I find people who are into horror to be the cool people. And he was, if he did start the Midnight Society, he's so into horror that he wants to find like-minded people from other schools and, isn't afraid of a diverse group of friends as well. He just wants the people who are going to come and tell the scariest stories around a campfire, who are going to go do cool witchy stuff by throwing what I think is like powdered coffee creamer in the fire to make it go up in smoke a little bit more. He like his vibe is just cool to me.
Immaculate vibes for Gary. I have some concerns about his fire safety. You know, one little, especially in this episode, it's a very quick dump on the fire and he runs away. It's still smoldering. Smokey's not impressed. We need to do better about that, but that's neither here nor there.
Great. I believe it's also the only episode where he just says he's in this episode he says meeting adjourned, not I declare this meeting of the Midnight Society closed.
Yeah, it's like a scrappy. They're running away. Oh, because the clown, right? The clown mask, and maybe that's to an extent they're still defining the show, right? This is episode 2, and so they're still defining those rhythms. Randy, who do you want to hang with?
Yeah, I think we might have just gone through like the 2 top options. You know, I also felt that kinship with Gary. He gives me big like Bernard the elf vibes. Like just this calming, confident presence overseeing the proceedings. But for the fun of it, give me Kathy from the episode. If anyone fucks with me, she's gonna bung them on the head. She's gonna let me know people are snots if they wrong me, and I think we're just gonna have a grand old time. Yeah, give me Kathy. We're gonna hang.
Hell yeah.
Great pick. I'll when I give her the shout for this one, I'll make sure she does bring the trash can Lynn. You know what? I was gonna, man, you guys have both, Bet and Gary are really my top 2. You mentioned Gary's got like this bookish look about him. Like he isn't the kid in the stereotypical, like especially 80s, 90s framing that you would say he's the leader of a group of kids. But in his little like band of horror loving, let's assume they're not the coolest kids in school, he gets to like step up and this is his world. He's got this niche, right, of horror stories, and he has brought this group together. Man, Gary, I always liked that he wasn't like, he was somebody who he was approachable. He wasn't like too cool. You believed you probably could become his friend. You probably could get invited to the Midnight Society. For the sake of variety, I'm also a person who like needs to be kept on my toes a little bit. Like take myself too seriously, to be quite honest with you. I don't always find it tremendously easy to laugh at myself. So having like the spunky friend who's going to both be a ton of fun and like give me a good burn when I deserve it is somebody I want to have around. So I will bring Kiki to my campfire. I'll hang out with Kiki while you guys are doing your thing with Bet, Gary, and Kathy. I think that first of all, I hope she's my good buddy, so the quips usually are directed elsewhere. But if they do come to me, I honestly need that once in a while. So happy to hang with Kiki.
Huge respect for that choice.
Thanks. Okay. This is, again, we're talking about children and we're having fun here. So take this with that grain of salt. It's time to cast into the fire. Which cast member most deserves to be haunted by an evil clown, and why?
I mean, should we all just say it together on 3?
On 3. 1, 2, 3.
Josh. What?
I think Kiki.
Okay, let's do this.
Love
Allie,
this.
going to you. Why Kiki?
She's so mean. I don't like that bullies the other members of the Midnight Society. She's got a real chip on her shoulder. And isn't she the one that does the clown thing at the end? Or
No, that was
No, that little motherfucker is named Eric, and that is the one I want to see haunted by a clown.
fair picks.
I don't like them mocking somebody for having a clown phobia and being like, oh, you should go shopping. Like the way that she's like really nasty to the other people. Like, just they're all here because they're weirdos in the woods with you. Like, just give them a break.
You're right. She is just like hammering these people who are supposed to be her friends. But to Randy's point, that little son of a bitch, like he went to a costume shop. He bought the mask. He hid it until the end of the story.
It was premeditated.
It was. And I hate to say this.
Thing.
He must have collaborated with, what's her name, who told the story?
Betty Ann.
No.
You don't love that. It's a tough look. It's a little bit of hazing. And I think, unfortunately, Kristen gets the hazing because she's the one that they all perceive as like, she's got it going on, right? She's probably popular. What does Kiki call her? Miss Perfect, right? We finally found something wrong with Miss Perfect. There's a big old chip on Kiki's shoulder for whatever, however Kristen exists socially in the world. Easy to punch up when you feel like those people, those popular folks, what do they have to cry about?
But Kris,
I don't understand. How is an imperfection having a fear of clowns? Like, it's not. I don't think it's impacting Kristen's day that much.
Certainly not. And she's like also capable of handling other scary stuff. So this is just like clearly one of those irrational psychological things that, I don't know, like how do you fault a person for that?
Yeah, I mean, it is. They are all bonded there because they have an appreciation for scary stories and getting scared. So I guess when one of their ranks is like, nope, I won't do this one, it's too scary, that person does have some explaining to do. But otherwise, I think, yeah, the bullying is not great. Josh, you've had to go last, and I've appreciated that you've pivoted some of your answers for the sake of variety, but I insist that you would give us the reasoning for why Josh should be haunted.
Oh, I mean, he just earns it every step of the way, right? As podlings at home can't see exactly how red my beard is, so please know that I speak from a place of knowing. This little shitty ginge is just such a stereotypical 90s. Get a rise out of you, get a laugh, mock you to your face. Everything about him is the kind of kid that I wanted nothing to do with as like a sensitive young kid. I was also like a big kid, so like I would get picked on to the point where I was like emotional, and then I'd be like beat somebody up. But like first they had to like make me cry. And so like I never liked a person like a Josh in the world, even if it's like he's friends with Ouija. They seem to have this bond. Like I give them credit for that phone call moment. I never, as much as I want Kiki to like razz me once in a while, I don't need the insecure friend who has to bully me because he's insecure.
Yeah.
Right. So like not only does Josh invite this haunting, which is why he deserves it, because he invites it, but like he earned it before that by just being such a shit. Did I miss anything, Tyler? Anything you want to say to pile on Josh?
No, you're absolutely right. He is, I knew those kind of kids growing up too, where it was like, yeah, they're fun to hang out with. Yeah, they'll do cool stuff. But at the end of the day, they're nitpicking you. They're waiting for you to step out of line. And a good friend makes you feel seen, not watched. And that is Josh. He's constantly just watching for something to noodle you about. And you don't need those people in your life.
I would rather be friends with Zebo.
That's those, I mean, mic drops of the night. We could probably end it there. Friends want to be seen, not watched, and I'd rather be friends with Zebo. I mean,
Yeah, man.
For the ages.
Allie, that was
yes.
so funny.
All right. So we're moving on to possibly our favorite Media Lit question and segment. As we're recording this, Kris and I just dropped our year in review. And a big part of our year in review involved us going through what we called the prop cave. Because every time we've talked about film or television over the past year, we have selected a prop that we wish we could take home from that property. And for our end of year episode, we envisioned this as just like a whole collection and living area populated with these items. So it's become a living document. And we get to add,
That's so cool.
some new items now for season 2. But our guests always get to add these items as well. And they always get to go first. So, Allie, I'm going to turn it to you. If you could bring one prop or costume, etc., home from this episode to stay with you, what's it going to be and why?
I think I would take the give it back balloon. It's so iconic just from my memory of what scared me. And I just think that would be a really fun one to have. I would know exactly. I'd be like, yes, that's Laughing in the Dark. That to me is like the iconic moment from Laughing in the Dark.
You can have it because I don't know how I made it this late into the episode without bringing this up, but I am freaking terrified of balloons. I hate them. They make me deeply uncomfortable. And when that balloon pops in the episode, that was genuinely my biggest scare. So please take that balloon as far away from me as possible. Tyler, how about for you? What prop are you taking home?
Oh man, I think it's gotta be, just because it's so iconic. I was tempted to say the nose, but it's just a clown nose. That's really unremarkable. It's consequential to the story, but that would be a dumb pick. I truly think, if I could, I would take the whole Zebo mannequin that comes out of the thing. And I know that was probably everyone else's guess as well, but truly, and also too, like when we say take it home, like I love the idea that they all live in this single vault, the Media Lit vault of awesome like movie props and things like that, or project props and things like that. But if for just one Halloween I could bring that home to my parents in Connecticut and just surprise my mom when she opens the garage door,
oh my god,
just Zebo the clown, I think, like I said, for the woman who eats eggs while watching Hereditary, it would be one of the biggest delights of her life. I think Zebo the clown, the mannequin.
That's beautiful.
Part of me also wants to pick the newspaper just because I want to know where it is, but I think the mannequin's the best.
For sure. Yeah, that's beautiful and selfless. We always love it when people are selfless. Kris, how about for you? What are you adding to the prop cave?
Okay, so now that we've done the prop cave segment and I understand the various rooms in my prop cave that these props can end up in, I'm like taking that into consideration where I make my pick.
Sure.
And like, this property may have one of the higher numbers of pickable props than the things we've talked about. Both of your picks so far have been fantastic. I also was thinking about the nose. You mentioned newspaper clipping on my list. It's going to be the cigar box. But
great choice.
Cigar box in the brown paper bag. Like I want people curious about the brown paper bag to open it, to find the cigar box, ask if we could smoke one. I'll say I don't smoke. And then, tell them why I have the box.
I only smoke in fun houses, so it would be,
appropriate.
Beautiful.
When I'm on the run for $4,000, which I actually, when you mentioned that, I wanted to joke about how like that's not a lot of money, but it was the 20s, and I looked it up, and that would be about 63 grand in today's money.
It's big. It's a lot it's a whole payroll, right?
Yep.
As Kathy says, wow.
Quote of the episode. Wow.
All right. So for me, Kris, we instituted a new rule. Only once per season are we allowed to take an entire like room or set. And I am not going to cash it in tonight.
Oh my gosh. I was like,
but I did have to briefly just like contemplate taking the whole hockey rink bedroom because it was so ridiculous and fun. But no, I'm not going to take that. I also contemplated, could I get those heavily plated 90s shorts Hell yeah. Could I grab the vintage pump up sneakers featured on the feet of Josh when he drops said cigars?
He was wearing pumps. I didn't even notice. He was rocking pumps.
Oh yeah, man.
But
instead, what I am going to do is I'm going to add to my art gallery. And what I would like is the number 5 door from the gallery with all of its jagged angles. When you open this door up, you're going to step up to the nice clean white walls of my art gallery, but you can open up the number 5 door and see that little bobbing skeleton head inside. It's going to evoke the episode. Fun little interactive piece of art. So there you go.
I love that.
Phenomenal pick. You've done it again, sir. Well, my gosh, I think somehow we did it. This was so much fun. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Allie. We're going to do this again, so please be thinking about the next Media Lit property. You've broken the ice tremendously well. You are officially podlings now, so thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Oh, no, thanks for having us. I don't think I've been able to talk about Are You Afraid of the Dark for years, so it's been a nice trip down the horrifying halls of my memory.
Yeah, this was so much fun, from just ideating what our episode would be, the homework, and then just sitting here. I could sit here and talk with you guys about this for another 4 hours. I truly don't want this to end, but this was great. We'll be back anytime you want us. This is homework I can get behind.
Yeah, and likewise, of course, I am really eager to step onto your show at some point. I'll watch whatever you want, and it'll be a blast.
Hell yeah, we haven't had a guest on in a while. We took a break on guests because our schedules got hectic, but we're ready to step back in again, and we'd love to have one, both, three with each, with all. Let's get you guys on, because this was great.
You guys were so fun, and I think we had a blast. I think we told some good jokes, and we talked about a great episode of television. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you also to the podlings at home listening to this now. If you want more Media Lit, please find us anywhere you get your podcasts. Hit the subscribe button and drop us a review. Give us the 5 stars. I don't know, if you're in the mood, whatever you feel like, we would love it. If you want to engage with us, you'll find us on the socials. Start with Instagram. There we're at media.lit.pod. We love to hear from our podlings. Tell us what prop you want from this episode. Tell us your scariest moment. If you don't want to do it on Instagram, shoot us an email. Maybe you're not on Instagram anymore. Social media is a weird place now. You can email us at media.slash.lit@gmail.com.
Beautiful. Kris, thanks so much for shouting at our podcast, but do you have any other projects going on, or anywhere you'd like people to find you on social media?
Oh, yes. I'm, aside from hosting this podcast with you, I'm also the co-host of the Batman by the Numbers podcast on the Pop Break feed with dear Dan Cohen. We're in our year of the world's finest. We recorded our first episode just a few weeks ago, which will drop in just a couple of weeks, exploring one of the first adventures for Batman and Superman on screen, the Batman Superman animated movie. So check us out there on the Pop Break TV feed. I'm also an actor and a voice actor. I'm a father and a husband. You can find me doing all of those things on Instagram at Kris_Ingersoll, or on Blue Sky now at Kris-Ingersoll. And that's Kris spelled like Kringle.
Beautiful. And I'm Randy Elaine. I've gotten too lazy to read off all of my social handles, but I would love it if you found us on Instagram and then just start searching and start digging. You're going to find your way to our website. You can find me on all the socials. Mostly, I'd love to get your emails, and I would love for you to check out the site. And you can check out all of our different little segments, like our Bat Chats, our Lost in Lit, our New to Who. All that's great. And I, too, like Kris, like Tyler and Allie, am a big part of the Pop Break family. You can find me over on Pod of Doom with Justin and Kris Mancini. And you can also look for my writing on the Pop Break. Have a great night, and we will see you next time.